Welcome. We're just about to get underway here at the Pasadena Buddhist Temple, July 24th, 2022. For our service today, I will begin by ringing the calling bell outside, the Kansho bell. At the conclusion of the ringing of the bell, I'll be back in here to chant Ju Sei Ge with you. And then after chanting the Sutra passage, we will read the three treasures, and we will then sing the song Hotoke Sama, if we may. So again, I'm going to head out and ring the calling bell, and we will be underway momentarily. So as announced, we'll go right into the chanting of the Ju Sei Ge. And if you're at home, you will have that on your screen. And if you're here in the temple, you might perhaps use the OCBC chanting book, page 39, for the Ju Sei Ge. Namo Midabutsu, Namo Nabutsu, Namo Butsu, Namo Midabutsu, Namo Nabutsu, Namo Midabutsu, Namo Nabutsu. Numbers. Busatsu Daimuryo Jukyo Ju Sei Ge Gagoncho Segan Ishimu Jodo Shigan Fu Mandoku Seifudyo Shogak Ga o Muryoko Ui Dai Seishu Usai Sho Bingu Seifudyo Shogak Gashi Jo Butendo Nyoshoto Jippo Tsukyo Mi Shomon Seifudyo Shogak Ryak Jinto Nen Joeshu Bongyo 지금의 조도 이쇼 텐닌시 진나리키엔 다이코 부쇼무 다이도 조조산 금요 고다이슈 야쿠난 타이히치에겐 메시콘 모안 해석쇼 아쿠도 그다tten 슈몬 고소조 만도쿠 이요 집보 미치가tten 슈주키 텐코 온후겐 이슈카이 호도 고세쿠 도쿠호 조다이 슈추 sappo shiku kuyo ithaya button gusoku shu tokuhon ganeshten yoman toku ithangayo yobutn mugechi kudatn husho gangaku eriki Toshisai shoson shiganya koka daisen no kando koku sho tenninna to chinmyoke namandabu 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 Ganiya shikudoku Jodo Sei Ge Don Monai Shinna Onyo Butsu, Namo Nabutsu, Namo Miyabutsu, Namo Nabutsu, Namo Miyabutsu. Yeah, we're going to sing, we're going to do the devotional reading of the three treasures. At this time, I will ask you to stand. We didn't used to stand in the annex, but now that we're here, stand as you are able. You don't have to, but for the devotional reading, Three Treasures, page 10, if you're using the OCBC service book. How rare and wondrous it is to have been born into human life, and now I live it. How rare and wondrous it is to be able to listen to the Buddha Dharma, and now I am able to hear it. If I do not transcend the world of delusion in this life, when will I ever attain spiritual liberation? May I, along with the entire Sangha, with sincere heart and mind, rely on that which can be truly relied on in life, the three treasures. I rely on the Buddha. May I, along with all sentient beings, awaken to the great path with my entire being and discover the highest aspiration, which is to become a Buddha. I rely on the Dharma. May I, along with all sentient beings, deeply reflect on the meaning of the sutras and gain wisdom that is as deep and vast as the ocean. I rely on the Sangha. May I, along with all sentient beings, become one Sangha of life, able to move forward and live with a dynamic spirit that is hindered by nothing. The unsurpassed, deep, and wondrous Dharma, even in millions of kalpas, is extremely difficult to encounter. But now I am able to experience and embrace it. May I come to understand and revere the true meaning of the Tathagata. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Nabutsu, Namo Nabutsu. So I'll ask you to remain standing for the Gatha Hotoke Sama, and this we are going to change pretty soon, because we've been doing the same two gathas for the last 6 months, but these are the two that I had memorized. So if we may do just the first two verses, Hotoke Sama. Again, if you're on the internet, it'll be there for you. Otherwise, it's page 116 in the OCBC Seiten. No, 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 sama, Hotoke sama, watashi no suki no ka-sama no omune no yoni yanwari to takaete mitai Hotoke sama no 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 sama Hotoke sama watashi no suki no to sama no otete no yoni yanwari to sugate mitai Hotoke sama. Please join in Gansho as you wish. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much. Please be seated. So hello again. I'm going to lose the mask a pretty good distance from me, and I'll put it back on before I come down. This is the 24th of July, and here we are, first service since our Obon Festival. Our somewhat limited this year, but we still had it, Obon Festival. And so being back here a week later, I want to thank all of you for your hard work on the Obon Festival, particularly the event chair, Jeannie Toshima, but along with her, all of you worked very hard, and we appreciate your work to bring income into the temple, to help the temple to survive. This temple's been here, we don't know, but about 70 years, and our 13 member temples in Southern California, about half of them are more than 100 years old, and of our 60 temples nationwide, about 2/3 of them are 100 years old or older. So we've been around for a while. We're not quitting. We're not giving up. We had our Obon Festival. We're going to have a bigger one next year. And thanks to the hard work of Jeannie and the whole group of you there, we had a great event. Thank you. This morning, I will speak with you on a topic that comes up often in the meditation classes and the study classes, but I don't think I've ever talked about it in a Sunday Dharma message before, and that topic is mindfulness. And those classes will resume in September for those who like to come to the study classes, the chat sessions. Mindfulness, sati in Sanskrit, nen, the nen of Nembutsu in Sino-Japanese. Mindfulness for Buddhists has a primary meaning and a secondary meaning. And the primary meaning of mindfulness for Buddhists is to recall the Buddhist teachings and to try to live in light of them. Now, the number of secular and health-oriented and non-Buddhist religious people that are utilizing some of our ideas and practices, some people get upset about this, and there's such an emphasis on mindfulness that the term you may have heard has come up, mindfulness. That there's, you know, you go to McDonald's for the McMindfulness, and you can get a hamburger and fries at the same time. You know, yeah, I'm not that harsh about it. I don't think much of it is McMindfulness. I think they're serious about health and psychological well-being. So good to them, good on them, good on all those people who borrow Buddhist practices. However, they should understand that what we mean by mindfulness is not attentiveness. And that is a secondary meaning, a very secondary meaning, being alert. There's a reason why being alert isn't so important. It's because you're always only relatively alert, and one day you won't be alert at all. So that can't be the answer to everything. Alertness cannot be the answer to everything, because we just can't be alert all the time. So far as Buddhists, again, non-Buddhists borrowing it, I don't mind at all. Good luck on them, and some of these practices help, you know. As I mentioned, I mentioned on the meditation classes, I looked at this guy, psychologist from San Francisco State, and he did a series of talks on mindfulness, and he said, you know, I'm a psychiatrist, I'm a psychologist, so I believe in science, and I believe in checking things out, and so I heard it as this mindfulness practice supposed to help you calm down and feel better, a bunch of bullshit, you know, and I don't believe it at all, but I tried it anyway because I'm a scientist, and it worked. I feel so much better now. So it may work to calm you down, being mindful. But again, what we mean by mindfulness is mindful of the Buddhist teachings, because just being alert is not in itself transformative. Being alert in clear consciousness is sometimes helpful in remembering the Buddhist teachings, in applying them to our lives, in noticing what's going on in our lives. It is the calling of the Buddhist vision of life and taking it up again and again that we mean by mindfulness. Of course, this does not mean that all Buddhists are one and the same. There are hundreds of thousands of pages of sutra-level material that we study. We study some of it. And on those hundreds of thousands of pages of sutra-level material that Buddhists have and revere, there are thousands of ideas and thousands of ways of envisioning our lives. So which do we make the effort to be mindful of? Which of those thousands of ideas are you going to take some time to be mindful of? Well, we don't have to make the same choice here. There are a couple dozen central values. If you just get down to the central values of the Buddhist tradition, there are several dozen. And, you know, I am going to mention what most Jodo Shinshu Buddhists take as crucial to our Buddhist way of living, and I'll come back to that. But I also want to talk at a more general level, because you can't remain mindful of 24 or 36 different ideas. We can't do that. So if you have friends who are converts to Tibetan Buddhism, they might try to do that, hold in their mind 36 concepts at the same time. We don't do that. East Asian Buddhism figured out that doesn't work for us. Yeah, Chinese, Japanese, Korean schools of Buddhism all want you to focus somewhere. No, you can't remember all that stuff. We know that. It works okay for some of the Tibetan Buddhist converts sometimes, but I don't want to recommend being mindful of 36 different principles to all of you. It will get confusing. I have had an opportunity to study hundreds of Buddhist ideas, and many dozens of the Buddhist teachings are highly valuable. I can't go around with hundreds of ideas in my head, moment after moment. I can't. So what shall we emphasize? We Buddhists in the Pure Land stream of Mahayana Buddhism emphasize the vows of Amida Buddha, the vows that are embodied in the Nembutsu, the promise of a liberation for all beings. We rely on a trusting and grateful appreciation of that promise to orient us. And I'll come back to that and emphasize those aspects of the Buddhist vision, but let me say a few more words about Buddhist values in their most general and basic sense. It is perhaps interesting that Buddhists did not ask the question, what's most important to Buddhists, for 1,000 years. If you look at Buddhist tradition, you'll find that it was 1,000 years before anything like a catechism or a book that said, well, here's the essence of what we teach came along. It was in the 5th century that the Theravada did in the 5th century with a book called The Path of Purification, which is long and very detailed. The Mahayana did it about a century later with a book called The Awakening of Faith in Mahayana. So it's kind of interesting. The Buddhists themselves, for 10 centuries, never felt the need to go, well, this is the essence of what we do. Because they were doing it. They were living their lives. They were living as they chose to live as Buddhist people. But if you, and whatever you were doing was the essence to you. So Buddhists in the Pure Land stream of Mahayana tradition were saying the Buddha's name in forms like Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Kimyo, Jinjipo, Muge Ko Nyorai. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. This is how Pure Land Buddhists live from moment to moment, day to day, much of the time. If you were a Zen Buddhist, you probably sat quietly much of the time. Chinese nuns, famously in the 20th century, who knows what happened before, Chinese nuns are almost always taught to picture the Buddha's face, a visualization procedure. That's what they do, Everybody did their thing, and they didn't worry too much about what's central, what's basic or foundational. But after about 1,000 years, those two texts emerge, again in the Theravada, the path of purification, and in the Mahayana, the awakening of faith in Mahayana. And they do summarize Buddhist tradition and tell you what's of the essence. These summaries, again, of Buddhist doctrine appeared about 1,000 years after the passing of the Buddha. And while there being summaries of the teaching is important, they still don't really say this is the thing. They still leave you with a couple dozen teachings that are all very important. And 50 years ago, if you asked an educated person in North America, someone that's broadly studied world religions, studied philosophy, if you asked an educated person in North America what Buddhism teaches, they almost surely would say emptiness, that everything is empty of a separate existence, and that emptiness itself, the ultimate reality, is each thing. 50 years ago, that's what you would have heard. The teaching career of Thich Nhat Hanh changed that. He decided to emphasize interdependence, which is a good choice. I got to tell you, it's a good choice. But because he was so influential, that's what people now will tell you in North America. If you ask a North American now, what's the essence of Buddhism, they're almost surely to tell you interdependence, interconnectedness. Well, it's a good answer, but there is no one answer, and it's important to know you need to remain focused on your own path. Interdependence is an improvement over emptiness as an essence, but it's still problematic. Not all Buddhists have the same understanding of what interdependence means. What does the co-arising of everything mean? What does it mean that everything dependently co-arises, right? That could just be a description of the bonds, the chains that bind us. That could be what it is. Everything's connected together. What a mess. I can't get out. I can't get anything done. That's what it could mean. It's not what it means to us. It's not what it means to the mature schools of the Mahayana. What it means to us is that one thing flows into another and cannot be separated. That your life participates in my life. That my life cannot be separated out of your life. This deep connection is what we see in interdependence. It's not necessarily what anyone has to see, but it's what the Jodo Shu and Jodo Shinshu and Tendai and Shingon and Zen, it's what we all see there in interdependence. It's a deep oneness, a deep participation of one thing in the life of another. This is a Buddhist envisioning of life that we would do well to remain mindful of, the interdependence of all things. Being mindful of the profound, interpenetrating, systematic nature of life will help us. This will help us to be oriented. Seeing interdependence will help us to have clarity about our lives and about our endeavors. In itself, however, it is not actually reassuring. I need reassurance. I need to be able to trust the future. I make a point of being mindful of the Buddha's promise, Amida Buddha's promise to all of us. Amida Buddha discovered and shared the deepest aspects of enlightened mind and heart, which is inclusiveness. This is the essence of is inclusion. Inclusion is a promise for everyone. Inclusion is the promise for everyone. Amida Buddha's promise is a promise to include all of us in their awakening. Recalling the vow, the actual promise of the Buddha to awaken us, the active promise of the Buddha to awaken us, recalling that the Buddha is awakening us to truth and goodness, This reassures us, reassures me. This centers us. This recenters us on the caring for all living beings. This is a good place to be centered on the commitment to the well-being of all living things. This is worth being mindful of. The shared promise of the Buddha to guide all living beings out of suffering, out of meaningless repetition, into goodness, joy, and kindness. This is worth remembering. Sometimes we say the Buddha's name aloud as a way of recalling that promise in forms like Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Kimyo Jinjipo Muge Ko Nyorai. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Sometimes we use these verbal forms to remind us the promise is there active in our lives before we remind ourselves. Reminding is just good for living our lives. It doesn't make things happen. It doesn't matter how often you say the Buddha's name. It doesn't matter how fervently you believe in this teaching. That doesn't change anything. What does matter is that we slow down from time to time. We settle down every now and then and remember what is of central value. It is important that we slow down every now and then and remember what is central value and importance in our lives. And that's what we mean by mindfulness in Buddhist tradition. One way of doing that is Nembutsu, Nen, mindfulness of the Buddha. Nembutsu is the recollection of the Buddha while saying the name aloud. So shimasho. In closing the Dharma message portion of the service, prior to closing the service itself, may I ask you to join me in Gassho in a posture of respect and oneness, and say the Buddha's name a few times in whatever form you may like to. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much. We are now to the announcement portion of our service, and I think we're going to have a few announcements. One thing is we're not going to be here next week. I'm going to be in San Diego. I'm the supervising minister for the San Diego Temple, and they're going to need me there next week to lead their Obon service and participate in their Obon festival. So I won't be here next Sunday, but Alan Goto recorded a service for me, and Kathy Kumagai and he will get that up on the internet so you could observe it next Sunday. So I want to warn you about that. What other announcements might we have?
Thanks again for last weekend at Obon. And then I hope you're hungry for Panda, because we have a Panda Express fundraiser this Wednesday. It's all day long, so you could have breakfast Panda, lunch Panda, dinner Panda, dessert Panda. But the way you have to do it is online, and then when you check out, although I can't see it on my phone, I have to do it on my computer. There's actually a box that says, put the code in the fundraiser code. So that's where you put the code in the temple. The BWA will get 28%, which is a pretty good break for having chow mein. But so if you have your friends or if you're at work, you could tell everybody that today's Panda In Day might work. So I don't know, maybe somebody else is lucky on the phone, but I prefer to do it on my laptop when I order. And you could order from any store. So if you have friends from out of state, tell them about it too, because I always look to see if my friend in Hawaii did it, or if my son in Portland did it. And because they send you which states participated, which is kind of fun. So thank you very much. I think that's it. I think tomorrow will be the last day we walk. Now, I got you. And play pickleball for this month. And I'd like to introduce our Miss Pasadena JCI, Lori Meza. She's been one of our junior YBA students, grew up, she was a baby here. She is running for the Nisei Week Queen and has been going through all the classes. And one of the responsibilities she has is to fundraise.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. Yes, as she said, I am a 2022 Nisei Week Queen candidate, and one of the ways that Nisei Week Foundation fundraises is through our raffle tickets. The grand prize this year is 100,000 miles through JAL, which is enough to get you from any airport in North America to Japan. So if you're interested, that's our grand prize. Tickets are $2 each, or you can buy like a nice booklet of 10 for 20. And we accept all forms of payment. So if you'd like to help support me, support Nisei Week, I am selling raffle tickets. Please email me. I believe there's information on the website, but if you'd like to email me, let me know after service. Thank you. Yes, and you can buy tickets today if you'd like. Yes, thank you.
Hello, I'm Kathy Kumagai. So as Jeannie mentioned, Sensei mentioned, we are on hiatus during the month of August. We will have Shotsuki Hoyo service on the first Sunday of August, and then August has a lot of Sundays. We're not here, so we're all going to be taking a break. We will be back for Shotsuki Hoyo in September on Labor Day weekend, and then we're back in action again.
Actually, that one's going to be a broadcast, you know.
Oh, that's right.
I'll be here though,
Right.
so we'll figure out what we're going to do.
We're going to figure out how we do this. Yeah. For
I'm going to be here, but Alan can't be here.
right,
So we're doing it.
right. So and then
Sorry, Alan and Kathy have to get some rest. I can sit here and talk forever. Just stick a camera in front of me. But yeah, we gotta let them get some rest.
finally, as you're aware, here at the temple we have a Buddhist Women's Association, and each temple has a Buddhist Women's Association, and every year there's a national conference of all the Buddhist Women's Associations. And this year it is being hosted by Northern California. It is 100% virtual, and it's the weekend of October 14th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. $30 per person to attend, and the deadline to register is August 1st. But here's the thing, if you are 30 years old or younger, it's free, and I just need to know your name and if you'd like to attend. And Jeannie and I have not had a chance to talk, but I think we may be showing it also here. No? Sorry, Jeannie can't hear me. Oh, you can't, I'm too muffled? Okay, so, and we may be talking about showing on Zoom the FBWA meeting on October 14th. We'll try to get information about it up on the website. The programming is incredibly interesting this year. Northern California has some really, really interesting topics and workshops for Saturday. So if you're interested in that, let me know. This week is the sprint to try to get our registrations in hand. And other than that, I think that's it for August. Again, I thank Jeannie and everybody who came out to help. I've received nothing but compliments from the people who attended Obon, and it was really a peaceful, lovely, magical evening. I call it our unicorn Obon. Nobody's ever seen one like it before, and hopefully we'll never see one like it again. And I really appreciate everything everybody did to make it happen. If you still have not had enough of Obon, there will be a virtual BCA Obon on August 14th, online on YouTube, and temples are submitting videos for each dance, and we will be too. So you can watch Obon on August 14th, and you can dance in your living room and wear whatever you'd like. So to dance. So thank you again, and thank you for supporting us this year. Stay safe, stay healthy. Our hiatus is coming at a good time with the high risk for COVID in LA County. And we'll see you again in September when, of course, we've all worn our masks all month, and so we'll all be perfectly healthy in September. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. Thanks for playing organ this morning. Thanks to Alan for doing the other half of the tech work. Kathy's going to get it up onto the net after Alan finishes formulating it. We will see you again. Thank you so much for coming today. We'll have to see what it's like. This is our first public service since we opened up the building again. We had the hot phone just for the families. And so little by little, you'll come and you'll have to see what happens. How are we going to change things? But we're very pleased that you came to join us today. Thank you. I'll do a closing gasho to end the service formally. We rely upon the source of limitless wisdom and endless life. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.